Welcome to the Color Money Podcast. My name is Bo Keaty, and I am joined today by my amazing co-hosts, Daniel Dixon, Emmerich Peace, and Julia Lachey. We got a full house today for you, and we have a great topic that we're going to be talking about. We're going to be digging into some of Gary Keller's questions about what are you building and who do you want to be. We figured it was good to take a little pulse check a couple of months into 2026 to check in with everyone on what is all this hard work going towards? What is it that we are all working to build today? And we thought it might be fun to share with you a little bit about some of the things we're working on and some of the questions you might be able to ask yourself as you try to get clear on what it is that you're building. I'd love to just ask the rest of my co-hosts a little bit about how do you think about this idea of building something? Like, do you wake up every day and go, I'm building something? Or is that top of mind for you?
Well, I do because, as you all may know from our previous 3 episodes, I have a keynote right now called "Keep Building." Mm-hmm. So, that's my motto right now is to keep building, and it is basically about resilience in whatever that thing is you're building, primarily for entrepreneurs, but business owners, leaders, whatever it is. So my hashtag is keep building on pretty much everything. So yes, I wake up thinking about what I'm building. And also because I'm in a building phase, I've taken on this role as an OP. Been an OP for a little bit now in Minneapolis, but I bought a new one in the suburb here, and trying to build the biggest ecosystem in the Twin Cities, the biggest real estate ecosystem in the Twin Cities. So yes, for me, every day that I wake up, I have building on my mind because it's at its infancy stages. It's not actually new. It's what do you call it when you're coming to somebody else's market center and turnaround? It's a turnaround, So I'm took on a turnaround, and so that's what I'm currently building. So for me personally, because I'm actually taking something that wasn't going as well as it possibly could, there's a lot of opportunity in that. I wake up every morning with trying to build this thing into the biggest ecosystem, the biggest real estate ecosystem in the Twin Cities. So for me personally, that's my space right now in life.
What do you mean by ecosystem? In what way?
Yeah, so great question. So we've got competitors, right? Coldwell Banker, Real, whatever, might be a competitor, Compass. And they are often, they're publicly owned companies, publicly traded companies versus a franchise model. So what I'm building is, and I call it an ecosystem to compete with those bigger models. Rather than just having one franchise, I happen to have the territory of the entire Twin Cities, St. Paul and Minneapolis. So collaborating with all of those agents, all 350 of those agents in our ecosystem, providing resources, tools, marketing services, literally creating something where people come into this town and say, oh, that's KW Integrity, obviously. Because we're building a brand and building an ecosystem where anybody who's in our world taps into that and gets all the value they need. That's what I mean by ecosystem.
Do you have when you think about building, do you have a vision or an idea of when you would know it's built?
Yes. Our goal, our vision is to be the largest real estate brokerage in the state of Minnesota. That would require us to have over 560 active producing agents. We're at 327 today. So I have a very clear vision of what that looks like, how many agents it is, what their production is, how many houses they're on average selling, what the profitability of the market center is. We have a very clear vision of what it means to be, we're there.
Damn, Unc, she's coming for you. largest black-owned brokerage in the country. She's coming.
Hey, the top is empty and the bottom is full. I'll see you at the top.
Oh God! Oh,
how do you get to that vision, Julia? How do you what motivated you to get there and think that big and grow? It's definitely a big lift, but why? What's the why behind it?
I don't want to lose. I don't know how to lose. The why behind it is there's a lot of people counting on me. We recruit agents and we say, hey, come here, and with me, you're going to do ABC. And I take that seriously. There's a lot of people actually expecting us to deliver what we promised them. And I like playing on A teams. I like being the winner. I like winning. Everybody likes winning. And I definitely don't want to be the loser, and average isn't okay for me.
So you don't want to be in second place because second place is the first place loser.
I asked a question on that. I don't want to go too deep because I want to get a chance to hear a little bit about Daniel and Emmerich and what you guys think. But one last question on that, just because you brought it up. this idea of constantly winning, wanting to be the best, like driving for something. And then but you did describe a finite goal. So how do you think about, if you get to 560, are you going to be good? Like, is that enough? Like, what's enough for Julia?
Yeah, it'll be good if those 560 people are also reaching their goals. If they said, hey, we came here because some people, there's some of our agents, they literally just want to make $100,000. They want to be home by 2:00 to get the kids off the bus. Perfect. If they're doing that, then we won.
So what about you, Daniel? What are you building?
I've kind of flipped the ancillary thought on its head. Over the years that, we've been a big real estate team and title, mortgage, those things have been ancillaries. And what I've learned over the last couple of years is agents don't really want to work anymore. They don't want to grind. They don't want to lead generate. They don't want to do the things that generate business. So a lot of our lead generation efforts, rather than sending them to leads or sending them to agents, we flipped it to where now we're more of a mortgage company that has a real estate team as the ancillary. And so now, rather than getting leads to agents and having agents call leads, speed to lead, and so on, we've flipped it to where now we're generating mortgage leads and we're giving pre-approvals to agents that can allow agents to be in their greatness zone, which is working with clients and servicing clients. Agents' greatness zone is not calling expireds every morning and lead generating consistently, which is why we have so many agents going on that real estate roller coaster. So for us, it was a matter of seeing the problem, seeing the hole, and then realizing what got us here is not going to get us to the next phase of where we want to get to, and what kind of pivots do we need to make to be able to change some things.
What was there a specific time or an instance or an experience that triggered that shift for you?
The beauty of being a real estate team owner. Mm-hmm. like when you're driving agents, it's a carrot and it's a stick. And you want to use the carrot more so than the stick. But unfortunately, a lot of the agents don't respond to the carrots as much as they respond to the stick. But it's exhausting having to punish people and turn them off a lead flow because their pipelines aren't managed right, or they're not calling leads effectively enough, or working the leads effectively enough. And it gets really challenging. And so with me being ultimate accountability, it's like, all right, well, what I'm going to control what I can control, and I can't control an agent's passion, motivation, desire to achieve, but I can control giving them an actual piece of business and keeping them in their greatness zone.
You said you punishing them. You're not punishing them. They made the decision not to do what they were supposed to do. And consequently, you had to make the decision to do what you had to do. So that was their decision. Is it something preventing them from making the calls or doing what they're supposed to do?
I think it's just a matter of want, right? Yeah. Like it's a matter of I think part of what all of us see in people is their potential and what they can actually be. And that's one of the most frustrating things with running this is like, man, if you apply yourself consistently, I'm not asking for 1,000 calls a week or anything wild like that. But if we're doing open houses consistency, like a couple years ago, we used to work across the street from a Macy's building. And I'm like, why, if you guys worked at Macy's, you'd put in a full 8 hours and work all day long with your 30-minute lunch break. But now we're over here building your own business and we want to leave by noon to go grab lunch. And I'm just like, it doesn't make sense to me. And being a high achiever, like the sky being the limit is what's inspiring and what's exciting for me. But I think the other side of that is, when you look at the numbers of agents and, how much they're doing or not doing or whatnot, it's just so different now than when I got licensed 12 years ago. Like lead generation was just a natural thing and everybody did it. And I think the Zillows of the world made things easy for people. And now that's all they want to do is continue to be on the easy train and service business.
But Daniel, you're so creative. Like you're not a typical agent that gets in and I buy and sell houses, you're always thinking, always re-innovating, always coming up with something creative. Daniel helped us come up with something creative for our ancillary businesses. Ancillary. Somebody likes to correct me when I say that, but you say tomato, I say tomato. But where does that come from? That creativity? Everybody doesn't have that. Every entrepreneur doesn't have that. Some people just want to say, I don't want to work for somebody, and that's why I do this. But you're always reinventing.
Well, I think the last podcast we did at Family Reunion was about pivoting. And these are the problems that keep me up at night. When all of my income is derived on people doing their job so I can pay the bills and everything, and they're not doing their jobs at a high level, I'm like, okay, what can I do outside of go back to square one and be an agent again? How can I create value for agents? How can I keep them again in their greatness zone and not fight the battle of having them do the things or that they don't want to do? And so it's solving the problem. It's solving the problem that I continue to see and realizing like, this isn't going to change. We're not going to go backwards and all of a sudden everyone's lead generating again. And we're not going back. So if we're forward thinking, what is this going to become? What does this look like in the future? And how can I keep agents doing what they love and what they're really, really good at, and just remove arguably the most important piece of being a real estate agent? How can I remove that and allow them just to service rather than go generate?
There are two things, Daniel, you brought up. One, you said part of it's just a matter of what do you want. And so, and the other thing you talked a lot about was the greatness zone. And so I'm a little curious as to what is it that you want that caused you to make this pivot? And what do you think is your greatness zone?
You know, when we think about a culture, like, okay, so when we grew my team before, it was, okay, the sum of average is exceptional. If we have a bunch of agents doing very little business, we're going to crush. And that worked in a really fast market. And now that we're in a skill-based market, now I'm thinking, okay, what is the culture that we want to create with our team now? And I think the culture we want to create with our team now is highly productive, highly revenue generating agents that I can go then invest with and do that next phase of being in real estate together. It's hard to invest with an agent when they're selling 8 houses a year. It just we don't make enough revenue to be able to have these wealth conversations. And so what got me here is not going to get me to where I want to go. What I really want to do is I want to flip houses with agents. I want to buy assets with my agents. I want to create this culture of connectivity where it's not necessarily a golden handcuff from that perspective, but it's a matter of how can we just continue to do more? How can we make 150, 200K a year and then go invest and then go cost segregate and then go create more cash flow and set them up for their futures? And that's what really gets me excited and gets me going. And, you know, not teaching how to your buyer consult and not teaching the listing presentation, some of those things. The wealth conversation is important to me. And agents are really good at servicing business. They'll service somebody from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and show houses all day, but you ask them to make 100 calls a day to go get business, and it's like pulling teeth. So when I think about my greatness zone, I think it's being creative. I think it's solving problems. And so if I can clearly identify what the problem is, I think I could find a creative way to find the solution where I can create a win-win scenario for everybody involved and insulate myself from the exposure that we've experienced over the last couple of years.
Emmerich, what about you? What are you building? What are you building, Unc?
I'm building a stronger business. That requires me to deconstruct some things. Going back, Bo, you're going to love this. You know, I was in the mode that quality is in the quantity. You know, Gary used to say that. Now I'm thinking the quality is in the quality. And what I mean when I say that, just around my business, I'm setting up guardrails for those people, Daniel, who don't want to do what they're supposed to do. I'm providing options for them coming into this season. The options are, we're going to give you a structure that you can plug into. And you can plug into this structure and be committed to this structure. Or you have 3 other options. You can go to a different brokerage. we can send your real estate license back, or you can go into referral. When I look at the amount of money that we spend in salaries and support for the group that we have, from our perspective, we're doing all that we can do to make you the better professional. If you're not willing to make that commitment, then you're not the right person for us. And I'm clear that we're going to lose 50, 60 agents easy. And it's okay. I used to have an issue with that for that reason. I didn't before. There were times when I was ready to get rid of 100 agents. However, for a different reason, because they owed money. So I got the AR under control. Now it's a matter of engagement, because those people who are engaged, and when we can get them engaged at a higher level, not only do they make more income and make more money, they support our ancillary businesses better, and they're happier, and it just makes for a better brokerage. So
the quality's in the quality. I like that.
The quality is in the quality. So I understand that we're going to lose some folks, and it's okay.
I think that it's super important when you think about the amount of resources that you consistently pay for to provide services to this massive company that you run. And in the same breath, like, I think where we were is not going to be where we're going. Mm-hmm. And then the brokerage of the future, I don't know that it is going to be just this massive collection of licenses where no one's doing anything. You're chasing that AR consistently because KWRI takes it, doesn't, whether they pay it or not.
By the way, for anyone listening that doesn't know what AR is, it's accounts receivable. It's when the agents aren't paying their dues. They have bills that they owe for office fees, and they go a period of time without paying them, and you're running around trying to collect bills like a bill collector.
Literally like a bill collector. Well, I think it's fascinating though, because everyone wins if we have a productive office. If we have 60, 70% of agents in production doing things, the classes are better, the energy is better, like everything is better.
And that's the conversation that we absolutely had to look at each other and have, because of the amount of time, energy, and resources that it requires to run this machine. By the same token, in my Gary V's voice, go out and sell a blank house.
I think it's a really
that didn't really sound like Gary V, but
no.
yeah.
No, but it didn't sound like Gary V.
It's the black Gary V.
Yeah, there we go.
One question I think is really interesting that in some ways is a theme when I think about all y'all talking about what you're building, is this idea that ultimately we want to position ourselves where we want the same things as the people that are around us, and where the value equation, like the give and the take, is actually something that you're comfortable with. And you have to be very thoughtful about that, because I think as human beings, we're all generally kind of selfish, and we always think we're giving more than we actually are. And we probably take more than we think we take. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, you got to position yourself in a business environment, if you want to build anything great, in a space that values your unique gifts and values what you're bringing to the table. And I think a lot of the challenges in brokerage generally stem from a changing relationship around value. And for those who've operated brokerages and been on the brokerage operator side, and for many of the agents who are listening who've been on the agent side of it, that gap between like the energy to provide a value and people's perception of that value has grown considerably, where more and more agents, as I sit and listen to agents, are saying, well, I'm not sure what I'm getting from my broker. I don't know if this is a value. And more brokers are losing their shirt, providing a lot of value to agents for which they receive nothing back. And so I'm always asking myself this question. You know, we had the opportunity to build something that I was really proud of in building, you know, KWCP and the affiliate, the related businesses and things into something that was one of the second fastest growing brokerage ever in the country, and at one point the largest African American owned brokerage in the U.S. That was a journey that happened partly because we set out to do something much smaller than that. We set out to invest in some properties and help some people buy some houses, and it grew into something bigger. So that's a journey, but that journey happens because there's momentum around this idea that what you have to give fits with what's needed, and that creates this reinforcing thing. And so I think one of the questions I've been asking myself a lot recently is, and that journey for me was about like a lot of people and a lot of scale and a lot of organization and a lot of expenses and operations and complexity and all this sort of stuff. And I don't know, one of the things I've been trying to pivot in is I've been asking myself that same question, but asking like more about like, what kind of life do I want to have? What kind of impact do I want to have? And where is what I now know X number of years in that I have something to bring to the table. And I want to go bring that to the table in a place where that creates value for others that is valued. And so that's been a really interesting part of my exploration on like, what should I be building and how should I be building next? Because I've definitely been in a what's the next chapter phase.
So, but what are you building? Because you've built, like you just said, really big, profitable businesses that many of us look up to. What is your next season? What is your next phase? What are you building right now?
Well, one of the things that's been on my mind for a while, it was part of the final stages of building what was built, but is also, I think, part of the pivot to what's new, is that like, when we get into real estate sales, like we are the performer, like we're the producer, we're the performer, and we're in an industry that rewards performance and rewards individual performance, quite frankly. Even when we go into leadership, we're talking about who's the OP that had the biggest office and who did this and who's the biggest wealth builder. And so I spent a lot of my life proving that I can win and that I knew how to win, and that whatever the playing field was you put in front of me, I was going to show you that I could win on it. And that was about being the person, about being the guy or the gal that goes out there and does it and that everybody knows can do it. And I think that something that shifted a lot for me has been wanting to influence and facilitate a space with other people rather than necessarily be the doer, to be more of the creator and the supporter and the masterminder and the setter-upper than necessarily being on the field, the one winning the award or winning the trophy. And for me, that today looks like building the Obsidian Catalyst Fund, which is part of what we're doing. So we've built a private equity fund to support other high-performing, underrepresented real estate developers and owners. And that is much more about changing the flow of capital and resources to other talented entrepreneurs to see what they can do. And it's a big mind shift, kind of like Daniel said, I shifted my business from being, I need to be in the business of finding and supporting other talented people versus being the talented person. And so that's been a big part of it. And so I don't know that I'm 100% sure exactly what that looks like, but to me, it has something to do with what I'm passionate about in terms of justice, in how people have access, how talented people have access to building, that there aren't ceilings put on people's ability to grow a business or to grow the impact they can have. And it has something to do with capital, because I feel like there's a food chain and capital's at the top of the food chain. And whether you could talk real estate, broker somewhere in there, you got like money, and then you got a developer, and then you got like a GC, and then you got a broker, and then maybe you got an architect, and maybe you got like a engineer. And there is actually like a food chain in real estate. And I think we can have the most impact when we play from the top of that food chain.
It's just such a higher level conversation than most people are privy to in the space that you're in, Bo. And being able to provide the capital to the people who are underserved. I mean, if we fast forward this and look at 10, 15 years from now, we can truly change the landscape of these Black developers that are building really cool things. I love that.
Yeah, it's pretty clear to me that there's a gap, there's a space. And I love that. I like going into gaps. It was clear when we started the brokerage, there was a gap in the brokerage landscape for a different type of model. And so I'm clear there's a gap here. It's figuring out how best to service it and to provide value in it.
Yeah, where I was going to go with it was kind of bringing it back to Gary. We started by talking about Gary's questions, and these questions, they show up for people who are wondering what questions we're talking about. There's a course that people take called Franchise Systems Operations, or I think they call it Millionaire Business Entrepreneur now. And in that class, the Millionaire Business Entrepreneur, there's a page that has 10 questions from Gary Keller that ask you some of these questions of, as we're building, we all talked about these individual unique things that we're building. There's some kind of deep questions that help you ground yourself in all of this. Because what I heard you just say, Bo, was that filling in that gap brings meaning to you. You know, and one of the questions on Gary's list is, how do you bring meaning to your life, or how do you make your life meaningful? Because you could be chasing all these things, but is that a life worth living? You know, is that meaningful? Like, what's the purpose? What's the bigger why behind all of it? So when you see these gaps, Bo, is that what brings meaning to your life, or how do you go about making your life meaningful through your work?
So when I was early in my career, I worked at a nonprofit called College Summit, and the tag that worked with low-income high school students who are going to be the first in their families to go to college. And the tagline, or like our little marketing slogan, was "Let talent shine." And I think if you think back to like what has given me meaning in my life, has been this idea that there's talent that exists in the world. There's capacity that, for whatever reason, for prejudice, for access to resources, for connectivity, is not shining at the level that it's capable of shining at. And I think if I had to put this in context, in the beginning, that was me. Like, I was the talent and I wanted to freaking shine, and I was going to show people that I could shine. And I think I did that, and I realized that shining's kind of empty when you're just shining by yourself, and that the real passion is broader. It's that I would love to be able to play some teeny part in creating a world where talent is more capable of shining. And so I think that the meaning I get from this is, I know, because I've lived a world where I have seen talented entrepreneurs. And there's a lot of people out here saying, oh, I have no access to capital. And I don't really care about 99% of those people, because they actually don't deserve any capital. But there's a couple of percent of those people who would do amazing things with that capital and have proven that they could do amazing things with that capital, yet they don't have the resource or the whatever is lacking. There's something lacking that's allowing them to achieve their potential. And I believe that that's a space I can play in. I believe there are other spaces that need to be played in to fully realize talents. I'm not saying that's the only one, but that's a space I get a lot of energy out of and a lot of meaning out of. And, you know, probably rooted in some idea of capacity and performance, but also justice.
So yeah, now we asked that question of Bo, and like somewhere Bo just pulls some stuff out the back of his mind that he's just been sitting on. It's like, okay, explain that in plain English, Bo. And I think that, like, when we start having this conversation about those things that are super deep, that like what you're talking about right now, Bo, a lot of people can't even grasp that concept when you're having that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I think like most people see a gap or a problem, right? This is like a key to being an entrepreneur. You wake up in the morning, you see a problem, and it's a problem for you. At first, it's a problem for you. I think the skill to being a great business person is figuring out how the problem for you is a problem for others and how you can solve that problem. And I feel like a lot of that beginning experience for me was I had to figure out how to access opportunity and capital in a world that was not set up for me to access opportunity and capital.
Right.
And so I had to figure it out for me because that was necessary. But like that doesn't actually, I mean, that has drive to it because you have to do it, but it's much more inspiring to do it for other people and to try to solve the actual problem, not just be an anomaly in the problem. And so that's, I think for me, it's like I saw my friends and myself grow businesses that had scale. And I saw us have opportunity and capital that was far less than lesser performers. And so I was not interested. I cared about justice, but not from a standpoint of like, oh, we've been trodden down, someone should give me something. I cared about justice from the standpoint of, if I have the talent, I should have the equal opportunity. And quite frankly, to be honest, you want a real, probably not a good thing to say on a podcast, but I learned that in real estate. I came into residential real estate. I had a background. I had a work ethic. I worked twice as hard as every freaking person. I was better educated than not a single person that I dealt with in residential real estate was close in Washington, D.C. or in most of Keller Williams, to be honest. But I knew I had to perform at that level in that thing to get an opportunity. Mm-hmm. I was 120 times the business person to get 75% of the opportunity. And at the end of the day, at some point when you reach a level that you're clear on that, you decide that you better put yourself in a place where that delta is smaller. Where the delta between your potential and what you can realize is actually smaller. And so that's been a lot about the journey, is saying like, yes, you could continue to outperform at a level where you're just taking a machine gun to go hunting for a squirrel, or you could decide that you actually want to challenge yourself to try to play at a level where maybe you put in 120% effort, you get 110% result. But I'm clear. There's a delta. You're never going to get what you think you put in, so you better know there's a delta.
Yeah. That's good.
And
That's good to hear.
What can you live with in that space?
Yeah, because everyone thinking, oh, I deserve this. Nah, you don't deserve anything.
Right. Yeah, that's good. Right. Emmerich, in your infinite wisdom at 61 years old, what brings meaning to your life, or how do you make your life meaningful through this work?
That has actually changed. Bo would say, I was trying to save the world, and I stopped trying to save the world. And what brings meaning to me is just what Bo was talking about, the people who have the skill and the talent, find a way to help them find an opportunity. And I say that because if I had to look back at myself, nobody gave me nothing. I had to figure it out. I had to work it out. And sometimes to the detriment of myself, I've made my best attempt to help other people. That's probably not the best path to take. And for me, what brings a meaning to me is to, again, help those people who have the skill, have the talent to find the opportunity. And the other part is look at a way to help myself grow differently than I have in the past.
What caused you to shift? Like how did you shift without becoming cynical? Because you set out to try to help a lot of people, like everybody, and I've seen more than anybody I've ever known. Emmerich is the one who poured his heart out and his love out across the vastest ocean of human beings. So what was the process you went through in that shift?
Well, I believe the biggest thing, Bo, was that I begin to understand when I turned 50. That's I look at that almost like the halfway point. I'm beyond the halfway point. I got more behind me than I do in front of me. And so I probably should start making what's in front of me matter more. And I cannot spend my time. I can't spend major time with minor people. I heard that and I was like, you're spending way too much major time with minor people who don't want to do what they're supposed to do. So you probably should take the route of highest and best use of time, energy, and effort. And you can't want it more than other people. And I had to come to that realization and start cutting the sandbags.
Well, there's two other really important questions I want on this list that I want to get to before we end this episode. And it starts with the number one question on the list is, who are you? And the last question is, who are you in the end? And I think those are really powerful questions because we talk about being meaningful in the work. You talk about having a vision and pivoting and all the things. But that question, when I saw it on the sheet, was hard for me to answer the who are you, and it's a little easier to even answer who are you in the end. But how would you all answer that question? Who are you? Not like, oh, I'm Emmerich Peace, or I'm Bo, or I'm Daniel, I'm a husband, I'm a dad, but who actually are you?
That was probably the one I struggled with the most.
Yeah.
Because who are you and who do you want to be, I think, are two different questions.
Correct. Very different.
Very different. And it creates some authenticity around, am I living the life that I want to live? Am I doing what I want to do? When is enough? What are the goals matter? Like it's almost like if you start with who are you in the end, you almost have to start with 10 and then work your way back through these questions all the way to 1, right?
Yeah. So were you able to answer it?
No, not in a good way. Chat helped me a little bit. I use chat for a lot. Yeah, because chat knows me a lot.
Yeah.
What did Chat say about your big why, Daniel?
Chat gives you some authenticity around yourself. I think this is part of the pivot that we made in our business as well, because who I am and who do I want to be around? I want to, like, similar to what Emmerich was saying, like, I can't want things more than other people. And if I want to work hard, I want to win, I'm a winner. How can I be around people that don't want to win as much as I want to win every day? You're bringing me down. I can't dim my light to match you. You need to brighten your light to catch up to me. It's a good, I think that's a forever target that's going to keep changing with who are you, because who I think I am, and then who Chat thinks I am, and then who other people around me think I am. I think there's some similarities, but there's definitely some differences.
Well, I wonder if that's even an activity that our listeners or we could all do, is if you use Chat enough for it to know you, ask Chat, but maybe ask the other people around you. And I mean, that's a deep question to really evaluate. Who are you?
It's a real deep one, right? And because I think the who are you in the end forces you to look at the way in which you want to evolve the core elements of your personality. Like, I could say, I know that ultimately, like, I'm a builder. I'm a creator of stuff. I also know that I have a lot of care for other people. I want to care about other people. But I want to imagine that who I am in the end is someone where that energy, that building, and that care, like, it resonated more than it does today. And part of that, I think, is about reciprocal relationships. There's the theme that I've heard through all this, which is like, I want to be in an environment of reciprocal relationships. Again, maybe that word's too big, but where what I give in and what I get, where I'm matched, where I'm matched in the things I'm pouring into, where I can pour into something and that match I feel poured into too. And I think that what happens to a lot of leaders and ambitious people is they can find themselves into ways where they are being drained, where their energy, their intellect, their knowledge, their growth, their time is being drained. And that can actually be quite lucrative, because people pay you for that, right? But ultimately, it doesn't get you to your highest self. And so I think I heard the one thing that resonated with me and what I heard from all your stories is, how are you seeking to be around in environments and around people where what you pour in is also creating something bigger, and not just being dissipated out into one big ocean of water.
And when you said that, I thought of something, and I thought of this. I thought the law of reciprocity guides my life. It is not the only part of my life. It's the guiding factor in my life, because I want things that I put back into people to come back to me in some kind of way. And it's a reciprocal relationship. However, there are times when I am going to pour, and the only thing that I'm going to receive is the satisfaction of knowing that the person that I poured into is a better human being because I poured back into them. And prayerfully, that person will take that pour and pour it into someone else to help them become a better person. And at the end of the day, it all started with a genuine pour to help another person similar to myself become better.
I think before we end, we'll go through all the questions, but I think one of the biggest challenges with these questions is we do so much business planning that you tend to think about these questions from from a professional perspective, when these questions are really built around like personally, who are you? The business comes second.
Right.
And it was a big aha for me looking through who are you in the end. A lot of my identity was in real estate and winning and growing and scaling. And now I'm looking at it going, none of that matters. Like my kids and my world means more to me than anything in this life. And so just like that, it's a weird process to go through when you do this, because we game plan, we business plan for our years, for our businesses, but we don't life plan for our families and for the vacations and the things, the milestones we want to hit in our personal lives.
We're at the end of time, Dan. You might as well just read them off.
Read off those 10 questions, Daniel.
So the first one is, who are you? The second one is, what do you believe? The third one is, what motivates you? The fourth one is, why do you work so hard? The fifth one is, when is enough enough? The sixth one is, what do you want control over? The seventh one is, what do you fear? The eighth one is, what regrets are you trying to avoid? Number 9 is, how do you bring meaning to your life, or how do you make your life meaningful? And then the last one is, who are you in the end?
Yeah, those are some good questions. You can listen to those, replay this episode, and really sit and ask yourself those questions, because regardless of what you're building, the foundation of any business entrepreneur, what is it called? Millionaire business entrepreneur. The foundation of all of that is these questions, and identifying what these questions are before you proceed to build something that might crumble if your foundation isn't strong enough, if you don't know who you are or why you're here or what matters in the end anyways. I think those are phenomenal questions.
Yeah.
And give yourself grace and understand that these are going to change. If I did this exercise 3 or 4 years ago, they'd be very, very different answers than where I am in this season of my life.
Right.
And that's what I was just going to say to close this out. Like, here's to building, like here's to the building. And I hope that everybody who hears some of the amazing things that my fellow hosts have built and thinks about those they look up to, doesn't just think about building as an output. Like, building's a journey. And I think these questions really get at the journey and the questions you got to keep asking yourself and moving through as we sort of build and create and think about like who we are and also who we want to be in the end.
Well, friends, thanks for tuning in to another fabulous episode of the Color of Money podcast. It's been fun with you guys, and I'll catch y'all next week.
This podcast is for general informational purposes only. The views, thoughts, and opinions of the guest represent those of the guest and not KWRI and its affiliates, and should not be construed as financial, economic, legal, tax, or other advice. This podcast is provided without any warranty or guarantee of its accuracy, completeness, timeliness, or results from using the information. Warning: you must comply with the TCPA and any other federal, state, or local laws, including for B2B calls and texts. Never call or text a number on any do not call list, and do not use an auto dialer or artificial voice or pre-recorded messages without proper consent. Contact your attorney to ensure your compliance.